you are. Let's talk politics. So basically, long story short, I decided to go with voting no and voting for Dan Kapelovitz. This is the official stance of the Green Party of California. And as well, when I looked into who were the leading candidates, what this circus is really looking like, and y'all, it is a mess. Like, it's a mess. We have like 46 candidates. A bunch of them didn't even write anything in the booklet that's sent to our home. It was just blank. Like, if somebody came to my house right now and was like, quick to Tommy, tell us all the issues that you would back and like why you would back them if you were California governor, I could write that in like 10, 15 minutes. How these people didn't find 10, 15 minutes of their time for a booklet being sent to all of our house, I will never know. And an official fuck you to, I believe it was a libertarian who wrote, check my YouTube. Those are the only 3 words on his. What the goddamn hell? Y'all need to do better. Do better. I should have thrown my hat in the ring with this nonsense because it's just too much. I don't want to vote no on for Gavin. I think Gavin's trash. I think Gavin's classist. I think that he's an elitist who just thinks the rules don't apply to him the same way they apply to other people. I think he's beholden to his, corporate donors, and he's a typical centrist Dem, the type that I would just rather not see in office anymore. However, he did, him and the Democrat Party, like, they just struggle with political strategy to a point where it's like they set themselves up to fail, and then they try to blame everybody else for the reason they failed, like with the Hillary Clinton. They knew damn well nobody liked Hillary Clinton like that, but they still insisted on pushing her, and somehow it was everybody else's fault that she lost. With Biden, they knew everybody felt he was a shit sandwich, but they still insisted everybody else take a bite and risk it for the biscuit, and it was a lot closer than they like to admit. I know now they're like, it's a little
risk it for the biscuit.
Get in on the seat of your pants the same way Trump skid in on the seat of his pants in 2016, and it's sad to watch. However, they decided to go the same route with Gavin. For the
God,
they don't have any real big heavy hitters coming in from the Democrat Party, so it makes it very hard for everybody else because they basically set it up so a Republican could just walk away with this super easily. And in my opinion, even the Democrat, who's the top contender, is he's more right than he is left. I will say that. He is not a good person, but let's get into that. Because I have here an article called One Progressive's Guide to the California Recall by Ernest A. Canning. He basically describes, how you are supposed to vote, right? You're supposed to vote yes or no for the recall, but then you're also supposed to choose somebody just in case the recall is allowed. And Ernest is advocating for everybody, Democrat and Green, to vote for Dan Kapelovitz because the top 2 candidates are really, frankly, they're nuts. Frankly, they're nuts. So let's get into the article real quick. So, first, we're going to talk about Larry Elder. The 2 leading people, let's see. We have, one of them has 27%. I believe Kevin Paffrath has 29%, and Elder has had 26% at the time that he was writing this. And they, Democrat Paffrath had 27%. Republican Elder had 24%. He's like a radio host, I guess. And Paffrath is just like a wealthy rich boy. So Elder is anti-choice. That's first off the bat. He loved Trump. He's super far right. He has referred to climate change as a crock. And he believes that the minimum wage should be $0. And Ernest wrote on this, slavery? What does that mean, $0? Someone should be allowed to pay $0 for labor. And so he said an unsuspecting progressive might come to believe that Paffrath's lead over Elder is a good thing. However, if you go to LinkedIn, Paffrath is a 29-year-old real estate developer who boasts that he's a self-made millionaire with a net worth of over $20 million. As revealed by LA Magazine, Paffrath has a lack of empathy for those less fortunate than him, and it's reflected by his extraordinary callous approach to homelessness. Paffrath wants the National Guard to round up the unhoused and deposit them somewhere. What the hell is this circus? I should have ran, y'all. What is this? How is this a real thing? And this isn't even, like, crazy. Like, you know, we've seen how, like I said, this is just classic nonsense. We just, every single person, for the most part, that I saw running had something classist to say about the homeless. And, like, I think a lot of people, I'm not sure who they think the homeless are, but most of the homeless out here, they're locals. They lived here. This is our home. We're all struggling for housing here. We're all competing for the boonies out here. They're out here, like, asking. I saw a house for sale for rent that was, like, in the worst part of San Jose, and this person was literally asking for, like, $3,000 a month for this 2-bedroom apartment in a shitty part of town. And then $3,000. And then they were like, look at this huge backyard. And the backyard was like a little spot of concrete slab. I was like, this is ridiculous. But there's nobody regulating any of this. And of course, if anybody says anything, it's just like the homeless. It's their problem. We've got to bust them out of here just like they've been bussed in here. It's just ridiculous. UCLA law professor Gary Blasey described Paffrath's proposal as the poorest substitute for a policy on homelessness that I've seen in 38 years, according to the magazine. Let's see. He then goes in on like science of COVID, what Gavin Newsom's whole thing is with the mask mandates. But I guess both Elder and Paffrath are against this. Elder vowed to repeal all COVID mask and vaccine mandates, and Paffrath intends to make all COVID safety measures optional. And I'm just so confused why mask mandates are like even that big of a deal. I'm very confused by that. I'm also confused, like, do you guys remember there was several companies that were trying to make, like, nasal spray things for COVID? I wonder what happened to that. What happened to testing? Why are they making this stuff into, like, optional, and maybe it will, maybe we won't. Who knows? I just don't get where that's going. And then, so basically we've got people who just want to ignore the pandemic and business as usual for the sake of capitalism. And the other person who I saw who was Green Party on the list when I was looking it up, she was one of the people who didn't even write something about what she was into. So I was like, that's kind of annoying. So but I did, like, look into it, and I just, Kapelovitz is what I keep wanting to call him, but I'm pretty sure I've heard it as Kapelovitz like a dozen times. So at any rate, I looked into Kapelovitz, and I did really like what I saw. I did like that when it came to climate change, he linked straight to Howie Hawkins' Green New Deal, and he was an advocate for that. I liked that he went in on the California wildfire situation, talking about it, talking about how we could be keeping that better. And then he also went into a whole spiel about Native Americans and working with them, since they have plans, and they've been shouting till they're hoarse that a lot of the California Native Americans, there's like a lot of them around here, and a lot of them have stepped forward and been like, our people have ways of dealing with this to make it, like, to mitigate the damage that occurs and to stop it before it happens and all these things. And that's what he's saying, is that he does want to work with them. He's for ranked choice voting. He also, I was surprised to see him throw in some stuff about animal rights. I wasn't ready for all that, but I'm fine for animal rights activism being chucked in here. I'm absolutely for that. So, you know, while it's not something at the, like, top of my list, I was pleasantly surprised to see it. I was also impressed with his wanting to end the three strikes law and wanting to end mass incarceration. He went into that a little bit. I would have preferred to see a little more, but I did feel that when he, especially talking about stop trying children as adults, making the jails and prisons safer, that's a huge one for me, because I just think it's really wild that, like, taking them away from their lives, making it so they can't earn money, making it so they can't, get work experience and can't be around their families, that's punishment. But for some reason, we've decided, like, making our prisons into this psycho place where we can all be like, ha, well, he's not going to want to drop the soap now. And that's funny on true crime when this asshole has killed a bunch of people, but there's a lot of innocent people in jail, because we do this mass incarceration bullshit, because our prisoners are legally slaves in this country, and we can overuse them for work, and corporations rely on that. Walmart relies on that. Whole Foods relies on that. The list goes on and on. You can find the list, and it's shocking, it's sad. It's like Whole Foods will put lists, fair trade this, and we ethically traded that, but then it's like you go to make a salad, and the forks and shit and the boxes and shit are made by slaves, and American slaves. And so, I just think, like, him deciding, like, that our prisons need to be safer so that these people don't get caught up. Like, I just don't think rape should be punishment. I really don't. So I really hate when people are like, yeah, like, they're going to get it. They're going to be the missus in jail. I'm like, dude, right now, somebody's innocent brother, uncle, whatever, is somebody's bitch in jail, and it's not funny. It's fucking abuse, and they're being broken in jail because it's not safe for them. And then also, the fact that things weren't safe for them with COVID, the fact that things weren't safe, and, like, that's a bigger issue, too, because I think a lot of our failings with COVID was really on the public healthcare, or not the public healthcare, on the healthcare system, on the private hospitals who were deciding not to be prepared for something like that. So then when push came to shove, they were not prepared. They did not have enough space. They did not have enough ventilators. They did not have extra in case of an emergency. And then a lot of that is getting pushed on to, like, anti-vaxxers or anti-maskers. But I feel like at the end of the day, one of the biggest people we should be pointing to are these private places that simply because it was not making them money to be prepared for a disaster, they just weren't prepared. And I think that impacted the nurses, the doctors, all of these people in such a huge way. So long before there was a vaccine, they were being overworked and underappreciated, and then, like, all of this flood came onto them because their bosses weren't prepared, because our system wasn't prepared, because we don't have, like, these requirements, these regulations. But that's another story for another day. At any rate, he does get into COVID-19 and all of these issues with, and, like, honestly, I'm like, okay, like I just said, if I was going after this stuff, I would have been going for the foundation, because I do feel like the foundation wasn't steady, and that's a lot of what went down. Like, yeah, our government abandoned us, all this stuff, but there is a point to be made with the private healthcare system that I just feel like people aren't doing. So he did go into the forest, the California forest wildfires. Oh, yeah, he talks about fair taxation. He talks about support for Medicare for all or single payer. As governor, he would sign that bill for all of us. He would end the criminalization of being homeless. Hey, your cheeks are big. They're full. So, I can't hear you because there's food in your mouth. So he also is for Taka. What the hell, man? What are you even yelling for? Nobody's even looking at you. Okay, so he's for workers' rights. He's for the living wage. He's for free, lifelong public education. He is for the universal basic income. And he's also for defunding the police, shifting resources from the police to other things. He also is for ending the death penalty. Oh, another one, I just don't think our government should be legally allowed to kill people. I'm never going to applaud for that, and it's more expensive to do the death penalty than to just lock them up for life. All right, so he's also a lawyer, like the animal thing, the animal rights thing, like he's an animal rights lawyer, which I wasn't even like, like, I would have known it existed if I sat and thought about that, but I've just never, like, really thought about the fact that somebody out there's job is specifically in that, like, portion of the law, like, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. And so he says, you know, he's here to represent all of California's creatures, great and small, and that's essentially why I'm voting for Dan Kapelovitz. I'm here for it. I'm really here for it, and I hope that somebody else will also help try to rally around this, and it would be really cool if we could get Dan into the governorship, but if we can't, I'd rather, here we are again, stuck eating a shit sandwich from the Democrats, but yeah, I'd rather have Gavin than, at least Gavin doesn't have like, he's not out here whipping up the fucking National Guard to come criminalize families who have been here generations, people who are, like, we're having an eviction crisis, and this man wants to fucking round us up and take people out. It's just sad. And the criminalization of people who sleep in their cars, who sleep at the park, who sleep at all during the day in a public space, who have to, you know, shower in places they don't want to. Like, you think they want to shower there? You think they want to be at the public spaces begging to use the toilet so they can take a crap? Like, no, nobody wants that. It's just what the homeless are forced to do because of how our society is set up. There's a permanent impoverished class, and it shouldn't be illegal to be a part of that class. And I was just really disgusted when I saw, like, I would expect that stuff from Elder. You know what I'm saying? I expect that shit from a Republican. But when we have, like, people who are, like, my age, who are just snoodily, like, acting like they're self-made millionaires, who are acting like, oh, these poor people, let's just get them out of here. That's just not how this works. And I feel like rich people really don't comprehend how much the poor and the working class keep everything they love alive. Like, in San Carlos, I think I've said this before, like, I've met people at their Safeway who take the bus, like, 2 hours to work at their Safeway. And these assholes just walking around, driving down from the hills, they don't even realize that, like, they're this close to not having somebody who's doing it. And they want to be mad. Hey, why is there only one cash register open? If poor people cannot afford to live in your city, how the fuck is any of this supposed to work? It's the same in Santa Cruz. Like, Santa Cruz has this huge issue. I love Santa Cruz, but you can't afford to live there and work any of the jobs in any of their little shops. You can't. It's impossible. You try and work at one of those cute little bakeries. You try to work at one of the little sweet spots downtown. You can't afford to live there unless you're literally living in a fucked up situation where you're house sharing with a bunch of strangers, which is impossible if you have even as much as, like, one kid. It's just not safe, and they don't let you in. They don't let you in even if you could get in. So it's, like, a really sad, crazy, scary situation where I'm just not looking forward to this recall. I think it was a waste of money. I'm like, I just think of what we could have done with that money otherwise. Split that money up, do another Golden State stimulus, split that money up, and work towards building affordable housing, getting people into affordable housing. Subsidizing, maybe, I don't know, doing something so that some of these homes could become affordable housing. It's just wild to me that those things are not an option, but somehow rallying up the National Guard to bless us out is. And it's just upsetting. But at any rate, that's what I'm going to say about the recall. That's how I'm voting. I hope that this encouraged some people, inspired some people. If you're a Green voter, I hope you stay strong this election and when the actual election comes up next year. Let's keep voting. May your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads, and I'll see you next time.